Okay, moving on to our first speaker for today. France, Germany, England. He comes from one of those countries. He comes with 20 years of leadership experience. He has lent his expertise to some of the biggest names in the industry, including the world's top software manufacturer, Symantec, and Japan's electronics empire, Canon. He is the founder of mybalance.net. Even his leisure activities highlight his passion for balance because he's an avid skier, horseman, and windsurfer. You met this charismatic gentleman yesterday. He's now become my best friend because of his dark sense of humor. Are you ready for this? Let's give a big, raucous South African welcome to Stefan Osthaus.
Thank you very much. I feel hugged verbally. I don't even know whether you can say this in this language, but this is how I feel. How did you guys find yesterday, day one of the conference? Insights? Let's hear it for the focus group. I think they have put together a wonderful event here. I saw people take notes. Lots of notes. I saw people connect in the corridors over coffee, which you don't do in this country. You have tea breaks, which I love. We do coffee breaks. Germans do coffee and cake. You have tea and scones. This is basically the only cultural difference that is between you and us. Make sure to leverage this community as much as you can after the conference, because you're in there for the same things. You're facing the same challenges. One of the big challenges you're all facing is the question, what kind of customers do I actually deserve? What kind of employees do I deserve? And in my past career, I've come across this question a lot. And I have 3 professional passions that drive me and that get me going in the morning. The first one is, as many of you, customer experience. I've been responsible for the customer experience of 120 million customers around the world. So I know the global differences, I know the challenges, I've seen the infrastructure fall downs, and the inside of the suit you will find sweat, blood, and tears. But what a fun, wonderful ride, what a great industry to be in. My second passion are employees. I was very fortunate to run teams up to 6,000 people and see what they struggled with. And see how you can actually not shine on the one side of the equation, the customer experience, if you're blind to the worries of your employees. And that has actually led me to my third passion, and that is balance, balance in life. When you ask employees and you subsumize the answer to the question, what's your biggest challenge, into buckets, you will find that the lack of work-life balance, as they call it, is the biggest challenge your teams face. And I personally don't like the term work-life balance because I think there's more to life than just work and non-work. Don't bite a stick from 8 to 5 and have a drink at night. So this is why I wrote the book, The End of Work-Life Balance. And we built for our clients an online platform called mybalance.net, where employees can go and assess their life balance across 5 areas of their life. Them as an individual, their relationship, their family, their friends, and their work, and to bring these 3 passions together and actually combine them into one equation, looking at employee experience and customer experience as one side of the same coin, is what drives me. Let's look at customer experience. In my simple view of the world, there are 3 Darwinistic steps of customer experience. In the very early chimpanzee stages, companies do the profitable thing, which is the nice term for saying they're totally ripping their customers off. This is when they think that TCF means treating cows fairly. I've seen this in my career. I worked for a very large manufacturer of antivirus software, which should remain unnamed in this room, and a very profitable simple business principle for them was the automatic renewal of the annual subscription. So ideally, you buy your antivirus software, and in the process of purchasing, they would somehow lure you into subscribing forever and then making it almost impossible for you to unsubscribe from this automatic renewal. A big driver of dissatisfaction, totally ticked off the customers when 12 months later, all of a sudden they would see a charge on their credit card, but it was the profitable thing to do. Then the next phase of the evolution, which probably many of us in the room are in now right now, is the second phase, doing the easy things. This is when you typically have one sponsor in the executive team who wakes up to the fact that customer experience is important. It's an influential sponsor. He will then create the role of a customer experience leader or customer experience czar or CXO, you name it, and give this person a small team and a small budget and say, go. This team then draws journey maps and finds pitfalls for the customers, and they map the pitfalls on a 2x2 matrix by impact on customer loyalty and effort needed to fix it, and then they focus on the top right corner where the things are that they call the low-hanging fruit salad. This is doing the easy things. And what's probably ahead of most of us in this room is moving into this happy space on the right, where you're doing the right things, where you allow the customer experience philosophy to take over, and where you allow the people who focus on customer experience attack the elephant in the room. I'm so sure every one of you knows what the elephant in the room is in your company. It is this monument of corporate bad behavior that you have inherited from your past. It is this overlooked infrastructure that is ready to collapse any moment, and your customers have to worry about it. So only when you go and hunt this elephant and slice him up, you're entering the third phase. And yesterday we spoke a lot about values. Values actually map very nicely to this, because the values in our company are in a triangular relationship between the company, the employees, and the consumer. In the first phase, it's about the company values: market share, sales increase, shareholder value. When you start doing the easy things, you're bringing your top motivated employee experience team in, which is why the energy in this room is so awesome. This is probably the highest density of value-driven people you can find in the country at the moment, because you are the representatives of the bottom right corner, the employee values in your company. And only when this expands and you go to the third phase, you will be able to align the values of your employees, your customers, and your company. Doing the right things in my career meant that we would then finally address the opt-out problem, communicate clearly to customers why it might be a good idea, and then let it be their decision whether they want to subscribe. And if they make up their mind, make it easy for them to unsubscribe. And maybe send them a little notification a few weeks before we charge their credit card. Because in many parts of the company, a $50 charge can put you over the edge with your credit card. And then you have overdraft fees and all kinds of horrible things that can happen to you. And guess what? It has paid off big time for this unnamed software manufacturer to do the right thing. Not only has it led to the Net Promoter Score go up by 30 points in 5 years when we did the right things, but it also did the right thing for the business. It did the right thing for the Attorney General of the state of New York, who was filing class action lawsuits without an end against the company. It was just a good moment when this was over. When you move from left to right, your teams will either follow you or they won't. And this is where the employee bit comes in. So as you travel to do the right things, either the whole team is behind you and walks in lockstep. If you pause in the middle as a company, you will have little patches of teams jumping ahead. And we had this discussion in the breakout session yesterday. Well, if the executive doesn't want to do the right thing, then we will start doing it in customer service. And we will start doing it in the French sales organization. This is very nice, but it's highly inefficient. All of a sudden, employees start to do the right thing without corporate support, without infrastructure, without the processes backing them up. Even worse is the third scenario. Employees neither only following you, not jumping ahead, but they stay behind. In our case, with the unsubscribed to auto renewal, we would all of a sudden find a patch of people in e-commerce marketing that thought their job and purpose in life is to be evil. All of a sudden, legally required unsubscribe buttons and small print disappeared because the team thought, this will make us even more successful in disguising what we're doing. So then you have a problem. If your employees are more evil than you as a company, you're in deep trouble. So if you cannot achieve these things without your team, you want to pay focus to the employee experience. And in our work with our clients, we have found that employee experience usually falls into 4 categories, 2 of which are typically blind spots in every company. Let's start with the first category, compensation. Every company, hopefully, pays a salary to their employees. And then there's some other perks like a bonus, an incentive plan, whatever. Some companies are awesome at that. Google pays their interns $6,000 per month. Twitter, $7,000 per month. Who in this room thinks that their company is amongst the top paying companies of their industry? Everyone go and apply for jobs at Telkom. This is quite typical. So if you're not the top paying company in your industry, you better play on the other areas of the repertoire as well. And while compensation is targeted at creating wealth for your employees, the next category, the workplace, is trying to create convenience and health. So here you have your ergonomic chairs, you have your cafeteria downstairs, maybe subsidized food, free drinks, tea, scones. You might have a gym. You might have pizza after 9 p.m. This is a true example, friends. Pizza after 9 p.m., software industry example. Whenever you work late, don't worry, we order pizza free of charge at 9 p.m. This gives you a slight hint what these first 2 categories are all about. If you're really strong on the workplace benefits, probably all you try to do is to keep your employees on campus for as long as possible. And I see this a lot in Silicon Valley. They have the free shuttle buses and the lounges and the Xboxes and everything, and free pizza after 9 p.m. So the third category, really important, and I spoke to many of you what you do in the contact center world and in the customer service world. This is where you can now enter a new world with task-directed benefits that try to make your employees effective and efficient. Let me give you an example. At some point in my career, I ran our contact centers, 6 million live transactions per year with a team of about 4,000 to 6,000 people, depending on seasonality. What we found out is that the customer experience of a support call would get stuck. We would do all kinds of things and dance and but it wouldn't go up. So we said, well, the customer loyalty metric is not very good because it's not dynamic. Let's look another metric, which is not a good idea. Let's try to fix the first metric first. So we went into the contact centers and listened to the calls, as we all do, and we found out that there's an incredible amount of dead time on a call. And since all of our contact centers were outsourced to South Asia, this is not a culture where small talk is really what is in people's DNA. So here's that chatty American person calling in, hi, my name is Mary, I want to call in for my antivirus subscription. And then there's a pause because the agent was using 18 different customer support tools in order to find the customer's record, do something with the license, then maybe support another product that came in through an acquisition and nobody ever bothered to bring the systems together, and this and that and this. So the agents were working with up to 18 customer support tools. So consolidating them into ideally one helped us to introduce a task benefit for employees that made them more efficient. We also allowed them to call us fools and idiots, because what we had done, when you outsource contact centers to Southeast Asia, what do? You don't trust them there, you have language barriers, so you make them rephrase everything. It's a wonderful term in the customer support industry, rephrasing. Train it. Customer says, hi, my name is Mary, I'm calling in for my antivirus subscription, I'd like to renew it. Oh, I will be able to help you with this. I understand that you are calling in to deal with your antivirus subscription and you want to renew it. Yeah, that's what I just said. Awkward, more than awkward. And then we would let them read their scripts. Because we are smarter, we're marketing people, we write up the script and it will come out much nicer as if you let this talented high school, university graduate person with a wonderful personality say what he would say. So then he would read the script and it would be the most horrible robotic experience. So these are examples that if you do away with that, we did away with rephrasing, did away with the scripting, and all of a sudden the employees could shine. Customer experience scores went up immediately. Employee experience scores went up. Attrition went down. The cost of the contact, it was just like pulling a plug. And we were like, slapping our foreheads. Why didn't we see that earlier? Typically a blind spot in the employee experience repertoire. Most of the times a blind spot in the employee experience repertoire, area number 4, life. Here's where you create purpose and balance for your teams. And trust me, increasing your market share and making this the most important quarter of the year and driving the earnings per share up is not really a purpose your team is willing to follow you. Not a good banner to go to Jerusalem with. So think about the more important purpose. Think about the triangle of the values and try to find something that is meaningful. We want to help people communicate with each other. We want to bring people together. We want to allow people to see the planet and travel safely. We want to deliver the best medical services to people that are saving lives. There are so many great purposes that you can find for each and every company in this room that shareholder value is probably the most stupid choice that you could come up with. So that's the purpose bit. The other bit in the life area is balance. I mentioned that the teams quote the lack of work-life balance as their biggest problem and their biggest challenge that they have. If you don't give them life balance, you will still expose them to the following. Reductions in force happened with any company over the past year. Budget cuts. Shortcuts in project timelines. We need this by next month. I know it was scheduled for half a year, but we need this by next month. Changes of plans, changes of leaderships, changes of everything. Being always available, working on weekends, night shifts. None of this is bad per se, but if you fail to offer a balancing influence, a benefit, a statement to employees that you care, then you cannot have an authentic conversation. Then you cannot stand on stage as a CEO and say, we're all family and I'm really committed to your success and we're going to do this together. So make sure that if you think about your employee experience repertoire, you come up with a benefit in this space. And if you play on all 4 areas of your employee experience, this is where a meaningful experience is created that doesn't leave you vulnerable to people saying, you just want to hold us in the office for as long as you can. Then you can say, I'm really committed to this team being the foundation of our success. If you're convinced and you want to do this and your boss says, well, what's the ROI of this? Call me. I have written a white paper on this and it summarizes the research that has been done by everyone, including the United Nations. There's actually such a thing as the United Nations World Happiness Report. And it is able to prove that if you create balance with your teams and you have more balanced employees, they will be healthier, more creative, less absent, longer lived, more charitable, and all the good things you want in your team. Better teamwork. You will also find that Generation Y and the digital natives, Neil has been speaking about them yesterday, when they come in with their Promethean rebelliousness and they want to shake up the company, and they don't find this, they turn away. They find different jobs. They find employers that play in all 4 categories of this employee experience. But don't only wait for Generation Y. All of us here, Generation X, in the company already, say what? They say that 50% would take less salary if they had more purpose in their work. I find this wonderful. That's good for us. That's kudos for us in Generation X. 50% would accept lower wage for purpose. 27%, that's more than 1 out of 4, would change jobs for more work-life balance. And remember how you said you're not the top-paying player in your industry. If your team is balanced, they will be 22 points more satisfied with their salary than their colleagues who are not balanced. That's a very nice and affordable makeup for you being cheapskates on the salary side, but you're good people on the life side. If you don't do this, the team will come up with their own solutions, like WALL-E. The secret to having a rewarding work-life balance is to have no life. Then it's easy to keep things balanced by doing no work. I love that. I think that's a good way of creating work-life balance. But if you don't do this, think about your teams. If your teams are somewhat representative, then 25% say that their stress level is now constantly at a maximum level. Not every Monday or every time before the trade show happens, constantly. 1 out of 4. 40% say they are unhappy, plain unhappy. 47% that work is their main worry. Now, how do you feel about this as an employer if you are causing the main grief in your team's life? And as I mentioned earlier, the biggest problem, 50% say they simply have no work-life balance, and as a result, over the past 30 years, the risk of blowing a fuse and having to stay off work for psychological reasons has tripled. And this is causing an enormous impact on the health systems in the economically developed countries. Now, look at these numbers and let me know. Who in the room thinks that this is pretty representative for the teams that you work in? Do you think that this is a situation in your company? Show of hands. 5%. Who thinks the situation is better in the teams that you work in than this? 10%. Who thinks the situation is much worse than what we see here? 0%. That's great. So the other 240% are still thinking. Good. However, whether it's this or something similar, the cost is tremendous. Customer disengagement, Americans like to put a number of everything. They say in the US alone it's $300 billion every year, but who knows what this is globally. Again, the numbers tend to say that the material cost, dollars and cents and runs, is enormously high. Why should we care? Because the wonderful customer journey maps that you drew, the wonderful low-hanging fruit salad or doing the right things cocktail that you created, the moment when it gets to your frontline employees, it meets a Neanderthal that abuses your customers because he's about to blow a fuse. So, employee experience and customer experience really have to come together. Let's get a little bit really profound and scientific here for a moment, because I don't want this to be slideware only and you go like, this guy thinks we need to do this. Let's put a proof in the pudding here. Welcome to Macroeconomics 101, back in college times. Let's look at something a bit scientific here and look at Nikolai Kondrachev, a great Russian economist who came up with the insight that is commonly accepted that human economic activity happens in waves that last for about 50 years, give or take. And after that, the economic activity hits a glass ceiling, and in order to break through the glass ceiling, you need a key innovation. The first key innovation that helped us to break through a glass ceiling was being able to use water to generate power. The next one then was being independent of the creek and the river and putting water some other places and produce steam energy and then making this mobile, the mobile society. Mobile steam engines, the trains, so all of a sudden we had public transportation, a breakthrough. The next one, long distance energy through the invention of electricity and individual transportation were the breakthrough innovation that started that era. And then we had the next one, started through breakthroughs in aviation and space technology. The Kondratyev era we're in right now has been started with innovation in the bio and information technology sector, and this era is coming to an end. So now here the economists stand and scratch their heads and said, what's going to be the breakthrough innovation needed in order to break through the glass ceiling and start the next era and be part of the succeeding economic individuals in that era. And while there's many opinions about the details, the consensus is it will be balance. It will be balance on the sustainable energy side, which most of us in the room can't contribute to. But on the other hand, it will be balance on a sustainable workforce experience, because it's commonly understood that the way how we go about it right now is not sustainable. This ever-increasing productivity and pressure on teams is, if we look at the numbers that I brought a few of them with me today, then we can very clearly see that this is not sustainable. So, we have learned 3 things so far. We need to do the right things in customer experience. We need to play on all 4 areas of the employee experience repertoire. Then we will be ready to succeed in the next economic era. And David spoke about this invisible line going through the room somewhere, and 5 years from now, half of the brands and companies will not be in existence anymore. This is your key to jump onto the right side of the line. This is what will set up companies for success in the future, because if you do get this right, then your Neanderthal all of a sudden becomes this wonderful person that he is on the inside. The talented person you hired for behavior, not for skills, we said that yesterday, and that has his own background, and that will write those wonderful emails we saw from UP yesterday, and that will create that magic moments. This is when all your wonderfully designed customer experience meets a greatly prepared team, and this is when the magic happens.
Good afternoon, Estel 146 is ready to taxi.
Mr. Smith boarded?
Just a minute, I'll just check for you. He's just boarded.
Okay, go, go, go!
Mr. Smith, can you look outside? There's a message for you.
Yes!
Good. Let me summarize, and good leaders trust their teams that they will do the right things. Perfect leaders will make sure it happens. And because of that, I called, while you were all zipping away on the cocktail hour yesterday, I was calling your executive assistants, all of them yesterday, and had them fax me your calendars. And what we did, we cleared out your calendar for next week. All meetings canceled, conference calls, they're all gone. You have a blank sheet of paper in front of you. And what I already did with your admins is we put some tasks in there for you with the 5 key takeaways from this session. On Monday, You will meet with the people responsible for employee and customer experience, and you will create a united team. Maybe it's difficult to do this formally, but at least create a virtual team. Give them a nice name. Value is a good acronym. Value-aligned leadership creates unique experiences, something like this. Yeah? Create a value team on Monday and make sure the focus is on both things. On Tuesday, bring this team into your office and check if you are doing the right things in customer experience or if you are still stuck in that middle layer, doing the easy things, addressing the low-hanging fruit. On Wednesday, then meet with the same team and review your employee experience repertoire. Make sure that you have offerings in all 4 areas: the compensation, the workplace, the task benefits, and most likely you will find you have a blind spot in the life area, so dedicate your Thursday to this particular area and add a life balance offering. Be aware that your team needs that and make it authentic. Don't just hang a poster in the cafeteria, be more balanced. Check out mybalance.net. It's an easy way for companies to bring this to their employees, but there's many other ways to do this as well. And then in this new mindset, all of a sudden on Friday, you will be ashamed about the things you said prior to this week. Do you actually know that your teams are playing bullshit bingo on your conference calls? And that they use their chat agents to say, he said it again. Whenever you say do more with less, somebody earns a drink. So review your thinking there, because we all know that from freshman year, you can either achieve a given objective with a minimum amount of input, or you can achieve a maximum output with a given amount of resources. The two don't match. Whenever you say, do more with less, an angel loses their wings and falls down. Take the weekend off. It's important for your own life balance. If you want to check your life balance on mybalance.net, I brought 10 free gold memberships with me. See me after the session and get your code. Take your test. Don't write emails over the weekend. Don't. If you get emails from your superiors and you feel you have to answer, so be it. But don't forward them down into your organization, because what happens if you write email over the weekend? They feel they have to do the same thing. Outlook lets you hold email back and schedule it for delivery on Monday morning. Find out how to do this. You want to be good leaders. This and much more is in the book, The End of Work-Life Balance. Get it and get a copy for your teams and your whole organization. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Then next week, present this, the week after next week, present this whole thing to your team. Make them part of this effort. Don't let this happen in the value team only, or in the executive suite. This is an initiative that needs to run across the whole company. And if at any point of this journey you run into trouble, let me know. You can contact me or my team and we will lend you a helping hand. This is a lot, I know. My team and I put together a quick start that has a little bit of write-up for this. And if you want this, give me your business card. We send it free of charge. So you have a little bit of a guidance to go about these things. This is my passion. This will change the life for not only millions of employees, but for for customers, but also for hundreds of thousands of employees. So let's do this together. I'm very grateful for this time we had together. I'm very grateful for all the connections you made during the day, and I'm extremely grateful for being part of these connections. Thank you.
In the town of Kumbakonam, a baby boy, Monogin, was born. His mom knew in her heart, from the start she could chart, this was no order. The teachers at school didn't know what to do with this young man so many years ahead. One gave him a math book by car, 5,000 equations to explore. For better or worse, a blessing may be a curse. He lost interest in everything but math. His notebooks filled with formulas that no one else had conceived. But his college courses suffered, so he was asked to leave. His mother arranged him a marriage to 11-year-old Johnny. Now he had to beg for a job to feed his new family. Boarded a train bound for Madras, leaving his family, his new wife far behind. Showed his notebook to India's brightest, hoping to find at last another brilliant mind. Someone who'd understand his math, who'd understand his math. The math was too far above them, and so his spirit sank. They had no way to determine, was he a genius or a crank? And so he sent out letters to those who might understand. 'Twas Hardy who finally recognized the brilliance of this man. He found someone to understand his math, who'd understand his math. Boarded a ship bound for Cambridge, leaving his country, his people so far behind. Thus began math's most famous collaboration between these two extraordinary minds. Hardy welcomed him to Cambridge, helping his talent to take wing. But among his skills there was a weakness. He had never learned how to prove things. Ramanujan's conjectures were ingenious, despite all the gaps in his knowledge. With Hardy supplying the details and proofs, the results were astounding. His insights on continued fractions, primes and diverging series dazzled the best mathematicians, alluding to brand new theories. And with each new paper he published, he was one step closer to fame, fulfilling his secret desire that the world would remember his name.
Srinivasa Ramanujan, Srinivasa Ramanujan.
Ramanujan, Srinivasa, Ramanujan, Srinivasa, Ramanujan. Cut off from his home and his loved ones, he felt an acute isolation. The respect he had earned from his colleagues at times seemed a small consolation. And with England weather so dreary, his body was wasting away. While hospitalized for consumption, the Royal Society honored his Srinivasa, Ramanujan, 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 Srinivasa, Ramanujan. In 1919, his health was so poor, it was finally time to make the journey home. To spend his final days in the town of Kumbakonam with the bride he'd hardly known. The last year of his life, while nursed by his wife, he recorded 600 new ideas. To this very day, his notebooks remain a source of equations to explore. One thing's for sure, though his life was cut short,